fan
10.
gate.
10.
10.
10.
10.
10.
I'm terrified. Yeah.
Like high alert.
high alert.
Oh, my goodness.
High alert. Like,
I'm between you and him right now.
No, I'm between you and him right now. But you're between with the number. Okay.
Austin Matthews, I'm between your 7 and his 10.
Okay,
I thought it was going to start to look better, right? Like that's, when we were talking about him not playing, I was surprised by how long it was taking, and I thought they were being overly cautious with it, and it was frustrating to me with the lack of information. But watching him play, you're going to give him a few games when he first comes back to kind of get back into the swing. But over the past, like before the Buffalo game, it had looked the same as it's looked since the start of the season, since the preseason. It's looked exactly the same. And then to have him come back, play in that game where he'd already missed the morning skate where he wasn't feeling right, and then to have him take that shot right in the sweet spot, like that's as bad as a shot you can take in a sore back or whatever it is that's ailing him. I don't know, man. I'm starting to think about LTIR and spending the money. I really am.
Chicken Little here. The sky's falling down.
I mean, how can you not be worried about it?
No, I don't think you're jumping to that conclusion in the next couple of weeks, but those conversations have to be going on right now.
No, well, that's why I gave it a 7.
Right?
That's why I upgraded to a 7 out of 10, understanding that, that there's way more of a possibility than I would have thought last week.
Like based on the fact that he's already had 9 games away from the team, that was close to a month that he was off, there is no guarantees that the next 10, 20, or 30 days off will get him anywhere better than he is today.
No,
so where are you now when it comes to the trade deadline? And if you thought you could get away with an upgrade in your lineup with a /3-4, like a Yanni Gord,
yeah,
in Seattle, now you got to maybe be thinking about a legit 1-2 guy from another hockey club to come in.
Ryan O'Reilly,
Nazem Kadri,
right?
Nazem Kadri, yeah.
But Brock Nelson.
It got a lot more expensive.
The thing watching that game on Friday night against the Sabres where he gets hurt, and JD made the point to me after the game, what I thought was a really good one, is that the way guys are reacting to him taking shots and the way that it was telling me that he was playing through something pretty seriously. Just the way that Morgan Rielly jumped in there on a pretty innocent play. John Tavares punched the guy in the face, which you never see him do. It just felt like his teammates were really sensitive to stuff that was happening to him. And they should be with the captain. He's a great player, but way more than normal. Just the way they were reacting to him.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just Austin being Austin. I wish he would have more of a reaction. Even if I was protecting something, I'd have a shorter fuse to come back
we
at
saw
somebody.
it in that Chicago game where he got hammered.
Zero reaction.
We had the one
to protecting something to me.
That game in Montreal a couple of years ago, right, was kind of the one that, and you don't want him to fight, but you know what? Joe Thornton's a great example in his prime, right? Joe would go squirrely twice a year. Like there was always a little bit uncertainty that all of a sudden the coolest surfer dude in the NHL that all of a sudden and had a great fight with Nazem Kadri once too. Like all of a sudden that was enough. And I'd like to see that, to your point, a little bit more.
But it's just not in him. And I don't know what we've seen him maybe cross-check somebody once around the net earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken.
We got suspended once.
Yeah.
I know, but of all the things.
But he's been in the league for 8 years now, right?
Yeah.
8 years. And there's less than a handful of times that you go, okay, that's real raw emotion. He just doesn't have it. I thought for sure against Buffalo, he got run by Tage Thompson. Pretty good hit, clean, but doesn't matter. He ran you. And then you take that cross-check, and there's just nothing from him.
Well,
nothing.
Okay, keep in mind, let's balance this. Hart Trophy winner, almost scored 70 goals. Like, I mean, so his makeup is his makeup. And number 1 overall pick, and all these kinds of things. So again, it's a different time, right? But again, 2024. So I will say, you don't have to fight. You don't want him to fight. All that. Will that make him a better player if he gets that visceral reaction that we seem to think from time to time? We go, come on. Don't know. Would would it rally the team? Maybe, I don't know. Like what will we get out of it? What's the end game in this?
Well, first of all,
he's the captain now, so that would be a difference.
Honest to God, forget about the team for 1 second. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but I am. Okay. When it really comes down to it, Gord, it's just my message to you and anyone else that I ain't eating your crap sandwich. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get free rides on me. Like,
he took a beating in that game on Friday night.
I'm telling you, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from Dale Hunter, and he's the king, is that you want to eat a crap sandwich, you eat it. But if you want to stop it, take a suspension if you have to. But it'll be worth every penny you pay on a fine or suspension to tell everybody out there, if you want to take advantage of me, you want to think I'm vulnerable, this is what's going to happen.
But he did get suspended.
I was going to say
once.
he did take a suspension.
And he paid
it
a
was
lot.
but it was an
And he
odd
paid
play.
a lot.
Yeah.
But it was an odd play.
I'm talking about overall,
Yeah,
Gord. I'm
gotcha.
not talking about plays. I'm just talking about an overall message that you have to once in a while send to people is like, I'm not a piñata. I'm not your whipping boy. You want to take free rides at me? Okay, you got to have some sort of reaction. You just can't sit there and take it.
Do Willie and Mitch have it? I mean, it's just
No.
kind of the makeup of that
No.
team. Yeah, you know.
But I, in all honesty, like at least with Mitch, they say what you will. I know he got a lot of heat. You know, Kelly Rudy didn't like it back then, but the gloves whipping off the bench, you know, in the playoffs last year, you know, a lot of people didn't like that. But to me, that's raw emotion. And you know, last time I checked, I think the Leafs won the next 2 games when Mitch threw his gloves off the bench. I'm not
showed
saying
frustration.
that. I'm not. Just whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
I just think that it could help Austin every once in a while, showing more emotion in whatever capacity he feels is necessary to show that, you know, I'm not accepting what's happening.
So okay. So then here's the question: when will he next get the chance to show emotion in a hockey game?
Yeah.
Like, we're looking ahead to Friday here because they just played their last game.
I don't see a world where he comes back in the next 10 days.
But to go back to your question from before, Kippy, about the trade deadline, the
2
one,
weeks,
if you want to call it upside, is the fact that they'll know by the trade deadline. They'll have clarity about his situation. You remember a couple of years ago, Ottawa's goalies got hurt after the trade deadline. They hadn't made a move for a goalie, right? So here, if you have to go bigger, I think you'll have. I would think you'll have that kind of clarity.
I'm not sure how much clarity you're going to have because he came in to training camp, we believe, with a situation. Okay, we are at Christmas, and you are no clearer than you were on what was ailing him months ago. So where are you going to be in March? In and out of the lineup, go visit another doctor, go back to Germany. Even if there's a scenario where you got to start thinking about long-term IR and pulling a Kucherov and having him sit and waiting in the playoffs, there's no guarantee that when he comes back, he's going to be old Austin.
No, he's not. I think you'd have the option of having the Mark Stone, Kelly McCrimmon conversation where you say, hey, your back's not right. You're sitting until the start of the playoffs. And if you have, let's say, Nazem Kadri on your salary cap plus a 60% or 70% of Austin Matthews heading into the playoffs, you're feeling pretty good. Are you getting Austin Matthews at 100% for the rest of the season? It's starting to feel like you're not. So I don't know what it's. I'm not a doctor. We have one that comes on the show, Doctor. I don't know, but like it's feeling harder and harder to believe. Look at the way the schedule breaks out here. They play 100 games in the next month.
Okay, but long-term repercussions too is if you go get a Kadri, you're really saying that I'm not signing John Tavares to a 3-year, $7 million deal. I can't have Austin at 13. Yeah. I can't have Kadri at 7. And then John Tavares is going to sign a deal for $7 million. So you're really making a decision that will also factor in John Tavares' future.
For sure. But I'm just saying, like, if you're making a big swing, maybe it's more the UFA route with, like I said, like Brock Nelson or something like that. I don't know. But if you have the ability to have the conversation with Austin Matthews and say, hey, you're sitting down until the playoffs and you can add something big, it's an opportunity.
So I'm still going to be my usual cheery, optimistic about things, but it is strange that here we are and we know more about Thatcher Demko now than we do about Austin compared to the start of the year, right?
Yeah.
Thatcher Demko dealt with whatever his issue is, and hopefully he's fine. And Austin Matthews just seems to carry on, right?
And we learned about a pebble in Stolar's knee.
Yes.
But we haven't got a clue officially what's going on with Austin.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
So we'll speculate.
I think it's more, but isn't that kind of him? I think he's a pretty private guy. He doesn't want, I think, since.
Oh, when does that stop anybody from finding out? Or
yeah, I mean, nowadays it's amazing how they shut it down. Like, I think it's a shoulder, right? I don't know. What do you think? I don't know.
I tend to believe it's his back.
Okay. So we can play Operation, Milton Bradley's Operation. Just,
the shoulder bone's connected to the back.
The funny bone. I don't know.
Wasn't Parker Brothers?
Milton Bradley. Sorry, you got it. Parker Brothers is Monopoly.
All right.
There we go. Christmas time. Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
We should note John Tavares with 2 goals now. He's on a list of just a handful of guys. Sammy for scoring 200 goals with 2 different teams, if I'm correct.
John Tavares scored his 200th goal as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. After also scoring 272 with the Islanders, Tavares becomes the 5th player in NHL history to reach that milestone with multiple franchises behind Keith Tkachuk with Winnipeg and Phoenix. And St. Louis. There you go. Mark Messier with Edmonton and New York. Gretzky with Edmonton and LA. And Lanny McDonald with Toronto and Calgary. So pretty cool.
A model of consistency.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. A very, impressive year with him being captain of Team Canada last year, going in the Worlds, which normally guys in their 30s with new families don't do so much. And I was impressed by that. And just when, this transition year, he's come up with a really nice year.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit of pressure now, needing a new contract and having the seat taken away from you are a couple of things that I think were real personal to him. And so far he's doing what he's always done, and that's come up with 75, 80 points a year.
Yep. So it's 6 o'clock. We're done now, right?
No.
Oh, what?
We got another hour.
What the hell?
Another hour.
I want to stay.
Where you
Don't
want to
send
stay?
me home. Yeah.
You still got time in between this commercial break to go get us something for Christmas. No?
Okay, I'll work on it. I'll see you as the cafeteria open.
Gord's going to the Eaton Center real quick, and when he returns, we go national with Brian Lawton. Don't go away.
Leafs facing center crisis amid injuries, eyeing trade market for solutions. As the Toronto Maple Leafs battle through a growing injury list and a suspension, their lack of depth at the center position has become a glaring issue. According to Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman in his latest 32 Thoughts article, the Leafs are among the teams exploring trade options to bolster their lineup. This effort is coming amid increasing competition from teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and Nashville Predators, who have also set their sights on improving their center depth. Friedman didn't mince words about the Leafs' predicament. The teams currently focusing on centers, including Chicago and Nashville, must consider when others will enter the market. Toronto will undoubtedly be one of those teams, he wrote. While the Blackhawks and Predators may have an edge in terms of cap space and assets, the Leafs remain a team to watch as the season progresses. The Leafs situation is urgent, with up to 7 forwards currently unavailable due to injury or suspension. Ryan Reeves is serving a 5-game suspension, while key players like Austin Matthews, upper body, Matthew Knies, upper body, Kaye Jarnkrok, groin/sports hernia, David Kampf, lower body, Max Domi, lower body, and Max Pacioretty, lower body, are all sidelined. The team has even considered temporarily shifting Mitch Marner to the center position, highlighting the severity of their depth issues. This isn't just a short-term concern for the Leafs. Depth at center has been a persistent challenge for the team, and while stopgap solutions like Marner could help in the interim, the front office appears keen to explore longer-term fixes. For fans of the blue and white, this has been a recurring theme. The Leafs' center depth often becomes a problem at the worst possible times. James Myrtle of The Athletic recently added more fuel to the speculation, naming several potential trade targets who could help the Leafs address their issues. Among them is Ryan O'Reilly, a familiar name for Toronto fans. O'Reilly, who signed a 4-year, $18 million deal with Nashville in 2023, might be a trade candidate if the Predators' underwhelming start to the season, 6-11-3, 31st in the league, prompts a rebuild. However, his steep price tag and history with the Leafs, including rejecting a free agency offer less than 2 years ago, make this a complex and potentially unlikely move. Other names mentioned by Myrtle include former Leaf Nazem Kadri, currently with Calgary, as well as players like Michael Granlund, Nick Jugstad, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederic, Radek Faksa, and Sean Kuraly. While some of these options seem more plausible than others, it's clear that general manager Brad Treliving will need to get creative to find the right piece without mortgaging the team's future. Cap space remains one of the biggest obstacles for the Leafs. Unlike teams like Chicago and Nashville, which have more flexibility and assets, Toronto is walking a financial tightrope. As Friedman noted, competition will intensify as cap-constrained teams strive to create room. For the Leafs, that could mean waiting for the market to develop further, a risky move given their current needs. The situation also highlights the Leafs' ongoing struggle to build a roster that can withstand the grueling nature of an NHL season. Injuries are an inevitability in hockey, but Toronto's current predicament underscores the importance of depth, a quality the team has struggled to consistently maintain. Looking back on recent years, the Leafs have often leaned heavily on their star players, particularly Matthews, Marner, and William Nylander. While these players have delivered in spades, the lack of reliable depth options has left the team vulnerable in critical moments. The current crisis at center is merely the latest example of this recurring issue. Some fans have called for more aggressive moves from Treliving, arguing that now is the time to strike while the team's core is in its prime. Others, however, are more cautious, pointing to the dangers of overpaying for short-term fixes. Striking the right balance will be key, especially as the Leafs aim to keep their championship window open. Despite the challenges, there's no denying that Toronto has the talent to be a contender, provided they can patch up their lineup. The ongoing rumors and speculation surrounding potential trades show that the Leafs are at least exploring every avenue to strengthen their roster. For fans of the blue and white, this moment feels like a pivotal point in the season. With a lineup ravaged by injuries and a tough schedule ahead, the Leafs must act decisively to avoid falling behind in the standings. The addition of a dependable center could be the difference between weathering the storm or watching another season slip away. Whether it's O'Reilly, Kadri, or another surprise name, one thing is certain: the Leafs are under pressure to deliver. And for a fan base as passionate and loyal as Toronto's, there's no room for excuses. The time to act is now, and Leafs Nation is watching closely. As the trade deadline approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Treliving pull off a move that solidifies the Leafs' status as a contender, or will the search for center depth become yet another chapter in the team's long history of what-ifs? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, it's never boring in Leafs land. As the Maple Leafs navigate this critical juncture, their fan base remains as vocal as ever. Toronto is a city that breathes hockey, and the pressure on Brad Treliving to make the right moves is immense. Every decision he makes, or doesn't make, will be scrutinized, from talk radio to social media, where Leafs Nation is already debating the merits of the various names being floated as potential trade targets. Among the louder debates is whether the team should prioritize a high-profile acquisition like Ryan O'Reilly or Nazem Kadri, or focus on a lower-cost, reliable center who can fill a supporting role without costing too many future assets. While O'Reilly's leadership and playoff experience make him an attractive option, his contract and recent history with the Leafs add layers of complexity to any potential reunion. Similarly, Kadri's gritty, two-way playstyle remains a fan favorite, but his cap hit and availability might render him an unrealistic target. Another factor complicating the Leafs situation is their tight salary cap. While Chicago and Nashville can make moves with relative ease due to their financial flexibility, Toronto must navigate a labyrinth of constraints to make any trade work. This likely means including salary retention or moving existing contracts to make room, which could drive up the cost of any potential deal. The question then becomes, how much are the Leafs willing to sacrifice to address their immediate needs? One potential trade partner generating buzz is the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde, a dependable two-way center, has been mentioned as a possible target. Gourde's versatility and championship pedigree from his time with Tampa Bay make him an appealing option. Seattle, however, is in playoff contention and may not be inclined to part with a key piece unless the Leafs can provide a substantial return. Another intriguing name is Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders. Nelson is a consistent scorer and reliable faceoff-man, qualities that would undoubtedly bolster Toronto's center depth. However, the Islanders are notoriously cautious when it comes to trades, and prying Nelson away would likely require a significant package, including picks or prospects that the Leafs may be hesitant to part with. For all the trade talk, some analysts believe the solution might come from within. Sheldon Keefe has shown a willingness to experiment with his lineup, and players like Pontus Holmberg or Fraser Minton could be given an opportunity to step up. While relying on less experienced players carries risks, it might be the Leafs' only option if the trade market proves too costly or slow to develop. Adding to the Leafs' urgency is the timing. The Atlantic Division remains one of the toughest in the league, with teams like Boston, Florida, and Tampa Bay continuing to dominate. Any prolonged slump could see Toronto slip further down the standings, putting their playoff hopes in jeopardy. For a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, failing to address their weaknesses could have catastrophic consequences. Brad Treliving's history as a general manager suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves. His time with the Calgary Flames was marked by blockbuster trades, including the acquisition of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. Leafs fans hope he brings that same decisiveness to Toronto, especially as the trade deadline looms. Beyond the immediate need for a center, this situation underscores a broader issue with the Leafs roster construction. Depth has been a perennial concern, and while Toronto boasts some of the league's top-end talent, their reliance on a handful of stars has left them vulnerable in moments like this. Moving forward, addressing this imbalance must be a priority for the front office if the team is to achieve sustained success. As the Leafs head into a critical stretch of the season, the next few weeks could define their trajectory.